In this, I'm not sure what they're meant to be, because this character isn't to be confused with Slog.
Slug, our hacker extraordinaire.
Who is also the exact opposite in the same show. I'm really confused.
Impact that she's having on young Black girls, and I'm going to be completely honest, on Black women.
You know, this is yet another area that's getting vibrant. It's getting full in the way that it should.
Ironheart is practically unwatchable.
This show basically keyed their car, their mom, and pissed in their bowl of cereal.
There's also way too much focus on the LGBTQ community by the fandom in a negative manner, and it just needs to go away, I think, for a healthy story to grow, and for Riri to really share her limelight with fans.
Natalie AI thing seems utterly preposterous and ridiculous, and even for an MCU show, I'm finding it to be a little bit of a bridge too far to go. The Heist crew, all lame. Every single one of them, all lame.
What if Marvel's newest and smartest young hero, a literal super genius, made a deal with the devil? Not a metaphor, not a twist on an old trope. The actual devil, in the actual MCU. It sounds like something out of left field. Maybe a fan theory gone wild. But no, that's exactly what went down in the shocking, controversial, and absolutely unpredictable finale of Ironheart. A show that was supposed to be Marvel's answer to what comes after Tony Stark. A show that emerged from the cultural high of Black Panther, Wakanda Forever, and promised to carry forward the torch of representation, youth, and genius-level tech. Instead, Ironheart became something else entirely. Chaotic, confused, bold, and undeniably messy. At the center of the firestorm, Riri Williams, a prodigy, a hero in the making, a symbol of the MCU's future. But when her tech-fueled story collided with Marvel's darkest supernatural forces, things spiraled fast. Because Marvel didn't just give her an arc, they gave her Mephisto, and everything after that changed the game.
Yeah, and it's like the real Tony Stark gets like back somehow, and there's like a moment where she's flying through and he's like, "Who's that?" And she's like, "I'm Ironheart, Mr. Stark." And he's like, "I like that girl." And then he like goes to do something else. Like that would be like the level of something that I think would possibly happen.
He deserves your attention. Ironheart deserves your attention. That's how I knew. I was like, oh, they are desperate to get people to watch this show. After I did my reaction, I kept getting, "Hey, it wasn't that bad. I just watched it. Hey, I just watched the first 3 episodes. It wasn't that."
Riri Williams was never intended to play second fiddle. From her very first appearance in Wakanda Forever, she was introduced as someone different. A Black teenager at MIT, reverse engineering her own Iron Man armor in secret. Not with privilege or legacy, but with raw intelligence and fearless hustle. Her presence alone was electric. Fans loved the brain meets bravery energy. She wasn't born with a destiny, she built it. With every weld, every upgrade, she felt like a worthy heir to the Iron legacy. Not a replacement, but an evolution. And Marvel knew this. They promoted Ironheart as a show that would explore the intersection of tech, identity, and youth. A Wakandan-influenced, street-level story about a young genius trying to survive and thrive in a world that's just as interested in exploiting her as it is in celebrating her. Dominique Thorne brought something special. A mix of warmth and edge, intellect and attitude. Her performance was layered, smart, and magnetic. She made Riri feel real, more grounded than many recent MCU entries. The early trailers promised a high-stakes but human story, one rooted in tech, culture, and emotion. And then the show actually released. That's when things started to unravel.
Ironheart is practically unwatchable. Toot toot, Jerry laughs. Yes, there is an alphabet character. They admit Ironheart sucks, but look, they're getting ready to blame you for it because Ironheart fulfills low expectations with weak narrative, poorly written characters, and dull acting.
To really reckon with what that means for the life that she wants to lead.
It's very short-lived. It's brushed over really quickly, and she kind of reverts back to her old self.
But one thing is for certain about this series is that, old agendas aside, let's be very real about this. There's a lack of character development. The directing, the producing, the writing is just way off. It makes no sense at all, and it's very lackluster. There's no depth to it.
Does it defy the haters? Or is it another skippable series? It's always about you, right? It's always about the audience. It's amazing. It doesn't matter if it's the 2024 election or whether it's a Disney streaming product. It's always about like how evil is the actual voters? How evil are the audience?
The first few episodes weren't perfect, but they had potential. We saw Riri building tech from junkyard scraps, outwitting low-level thugs, and trying to juggle real-life problems with world-saving ambition. But the tone quickly started to shift. The grounded grit gave way to awkward humor. Villains became more cartoonish than dangerous. Side characters felt pulled from a totally different show. It was as if Marvel couldn't decide if this was Iron Man 1 or a Saturday morning cartoon. And then came episode 6. That's when everything changed. Enter Mephisto. Yes, the literal devil of the Marvel Universe. Portrayed by Sacha Baron Cohen in a performance that felt equal parts theatrical and sinister, Mephisto's arrival was like a hard reset button. The show suddenly dove into mysticism, hell dimensions, and Faustian deals. Gone was the scrappy underdog inventor. Now, Riri was entangled in cosmic bargaining, tempted with power beyond her comprehension. Science and magic collided in a way that left many viewers confused. What started as a story about brain power and resilience became a tale of dark forces and moral compromise. It was daring, it was divisive, and it left the fanbase reeling. Normally, a twist this wild would be catnip for the internet, but the reaction wasn't fire. It was smoke, and not the good kind. The series had already faced review bombing before its premiere, a sad trend with projects led by women and people of color. But once episodes started rolling out, even the core fanbase seemed unsure how to feel. The pacing felt off. The tone was inconsistent. One moment you had real emotional beats, the next, demon jokes and slapstick sidekicks. By the time Mephisto arrived, many viewers had already checked out. Critics were polite but mixed. A Hetvenhot Sazalek on Rotten Tomatoes. Not a disaster, but not the home run Marvel needed either. Social media was more brutal. Some called Ironheart a bold narrative swing. Others said it felt like a show afraid of being itself, constantly trying to fit into multiple MCU boxes at once. But interestingly, the backlash wasn't aimed at Riri herself. Fans still liked her. The problem was everything around her. The plot twists felt unearned. The tone flip-flopped between gritty and goofy. The villains were underdeveloped, and the inclusion of Mephisto, while shocking, felt like a decision driven by franchise strategy, not storytelling logic. Marvel insisted it was a win. That Ironheart was experimental, layered, ambitious, but fans weren't buying it. And behind the scenes, the real fallout was already underway. Internally, Marvel was facing a quiet storm. According to multiple leaks, studio execs were unhappy. The show had a massive budget, nearly rivaling Moon Knight, but it wasn't getting the buzz. Merch sales? Underwhelming. Online chatter? Fading fast. And most alarmingly, audiences weren't blaming Dominique Thorne, they were blaming the creative decisions. Then came the real shocker. Marvel made a silent move. They removed Dominique Thorne from the Season 2 plans. No announcement, no press release, not even a social media nod. Just gone. The lead of a show named Ironheart, quietly shelved. Fans were stunned. Was it performance-related? Hardly. Was it story-driven? Maybe. But rumors began circulating about legal complications, contract disputes, and even conflicts over the Mephisto arc. Some insiders claimed the whole magic tech fusion wasn't even part of the original vision, that it was pushed late in development to tie into larger multiverse plans. Others said the Mephisto plotline was supposed to spin off into its own darker sub-franchise, but testing audiences hated it. Whatever the truth, one thing was clear. Ironheart went from Marvel's rising star to its most quietly controversial project in years. Whispers came first. Anonymous sources started feeding stories to the press. Dominique was hard to work with. She pushed back too much. She didn't vibe with the team. But none of it was confirmed. No quotes, no receipts, just a trail of vague, damaging rumors that all seemed to land on one message. Blame the actress, not the studio. And that's when things exploded. Weeks after her removal, Dominique Thorne filed a lawsuit against Marvel. Not a publicity stunt, a full-on legal battle. Wrongful termination, breach of contract, career sabotage. According to court documents, Dominique had flagged real issues during filming. Poor character development, inconsistent pacing, dialogue that didn't reflect the character's brilliance. She was passionate, she was vocal, but Marvel allegedly saw that as a threat and cut her. Her team didn't hold back. They accused Marvel of using her as a scapegoat to cover for the show's creative failures, of painting her as difficult to justify replacing her, and of violating a multi-season contract without cause. Suddenly, the conversation shifted. This wasn't just a failed show anymore. It was a crisis. Dominique's lawsuit didn't just spark outrage, it lit a fuse under the entire MCU. Fans rallied behind her. Justice for Dominique started trending. Her performances were rewatched, praised, defended, and suddenly Marvel, once seen as a dream studio, looked like a corporate machine that chewed up its own rising stars. But that was only part of the picture. Behind the scenes, Marvel was already struggling. Since Endgame, it's been one rocky release after another. Eternals, Quantumania, She-Hulk, all met with lukewarm reactions at best. Writers were rushed, directors were swapped mid-production, VFX artists overworked. The studio was focused on output, not outcome. And Dominique? She may have just been the first one to call it out loud. Suddenly, actors began distancing themselves. A-list talent dropped out of projects. Scripts were rewritten. Internal leadership, once considered untouchable, was under fire. Marvel wanted to set an example by firing her. Instead, they set off a reckoning. What Marvel didn't expect was how loud silence could be. As Dominique's legal battle gained traction, something eerie started happening. Actors who once celebrated the MCU went quiet. Big names unfollowed Marvel accounts. Others dropped cryptic messages. Being the face of something doesn't mean you have a voice in it. They'll regret it. Trust me. Even former cast members who once praised the franchise, nothing. Not a word of support. Just radio silence, and that silence spoke volumes. Hollywood insiders began whispering that Marvel had become toxic, not because of its heroes, but because of how it treated its real people. Writers, voice actors, even editors started coming forward with their own stories of being ignored, rewritten, removed. And just like Dominique, they were often newcomers, lesser known, or part of underrepresented communities. Her lawsuit became more than a contract dispute, it became a mirror, reflecting the cracks inside one of the biggest studios in the world. Dominique Thorne was supposed to be the hero of Ironheart, but now, she was leading a very different kind of story. Marvel tried to frame her exit as creative restructuring, but fans weren't buying it, and neither were casting directors or producers. Suddenly, being part of the MCU wasn't a golden ticket. It was a risk. Studios across town started pulling actors from Marvel talks. Writers walked, projects stalled, executives scrambled. Disney, Marvel's parent company, reportedly called for emergency meetings. There were talks of shelving upcoming shows. Even Phase 6 was suddenly under review, all because one actress refused to be erased quietly. Dominique Thorne didn't just stand up to Marvel, she exposed the system. A system built on hype, but hiding burnout, breakdowns, and blame. And in doing so, she lit a fuse that may change the industry forever. So, what happens when the smartest kid in the MCU makes a deal with the devil? Ironheart was supposed to be the future. A tech prodigy, a legacy character, a bold new direction. But instead of rising as Marvel's next icon, Riri Williams became something else entirely, a symbol of how chaotic and unpredictable the MCU has become. From review bombing to behind-the-scenes drama, from magical bargains with Mephisto to Marvel's creative misfires, this wasn't just another superhero show, it became a lightning rod. For controversy, for speculation, for fans demanding better. And now, there's no guarantee of a second season, no clear direction, no promise that Riri or Mephisto will return. But maybe that's the real cliffhanger. Because Ironheart didn't just leave us with unanswered questions about magic and science, it forced us to ask something bigger. Has Marvel lost control of its universe? The fans are watching. The industry is watching. And the next move, it might decide the future of the entire MCU. Because if this is what happens when Marvel tries to pass the torch, who's left willing to carry it?